Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So, today we're going to discuss the what's next on Gabriel Rosado, the former world title challenger and back in the hunt at super middleweight, following a fantastic third-round knockout of Bektemir Melikuziev, who was undefeated. He was 7-0 with 6 knockouts coming into the fight. And, you know, this is a guy, Melikuziev was a highly touted prospect on the rise. He was even ready to step it up against Sergey Kovalev at 175 back in January, but Kovalev tested positive for certain bad substances, and the fight was canceled. But he ends up taking on Rosado, who just, you know, Rosado just continues over his career to make good money, because he's not just a blood and guts warrior guy. He's a guy that can box, has skill, and also packs a punch, you know. And he was getting it put on him. He even got put down at the end of the first round, but he stayed in there. And in the third round, he landed just a perfectly timed right hand that face planted Melikuziev. Melikuziev went down hard, and you know, Rosado continues to show throughout his career that he's just a game veteran and a fighter that is not afraid of anybody. He'll take on any opponent. And you know, he fought Daniel Jacobs last November, and you know, you could argue that he won that fight. You really could. I mean, it was kind of a dull, not a lot of action type fight, but he stayed back and kind of boxed. And you know, again, you can argue he beat Daniel Jacobs that night. And you know, for him to even have a close fight with where Daniel Jacobs is on a world level is a big deal. So, you know, he comes in, he knocks out Melikuziev, and now I'm putting him in the top 10 at 168. So now the big question is, what's next for Gabriel Rosado following that victory? You know, we'll run through the top 10 at 168, but one option I want to throw out there is him possibly returning to middleweight to take on Jaime Munguia. That was discussed. Munguia fought in the main event of that DAZN card that Rosado knocked out Melikuziev in. And, you know, that was being rumored as a possible opponent if Munguia can't land the title shot, which is going to be hard for him at 160. So, unless he decides to take on Demetrius Andrade or somebody like that. So, I'm thinking that Rosado and Munguia might fight. It's very possible. But I'm leaning towards Rosado possibly making a decent run at 168, because he's fought 3 times since losing to Maciej Sulecki back in 2019 in a fight where he got dropped twice. But he also scored knockdowns over Sulecki, but he pretty much got outworked that whole fight. And 160 is where he was pretty much fighting majority of his, career up to that point. And he just looks good at 168 right now. You know, he's fought tough against Daniel Jacobs, and now laid out a highly touted prospect on the rise in Melikuziev. So I think maybe 168 might be better suited for Rosado. But let's run through the top 10 and see what his options possibly could be. Okay, we start with number 1, the pound-for-pound king and unified champ, Canelo Alvarez. That's not happening next, and it might not happen at all. Right now, Canelo would look at Rosado as somebody like, why do I have to fight this guy? He doesn't. This fight's not possible, in my opinion. Number 2, I haven't really reshaped my top 10 at 168 yet. I kind of just somewhat know who the guys are. So I'm going to say Daniel Jacobs, a possible rematch. If I'm Daniel Jacobs, I want a rematch with Gabe Rosado to shut him up. You know, it would sell some tickets. It would get Jacobs the hype going again if he were to come in and dominate and beat Rosado the way he was supposed to the first time. You know, I think people were looking at that like, this is a should be and an easy win for him. Why did he not get it? You know, and that's kind of questionable right there. So, you know, it's kind of up in the air on if the Jacobs fight is possible, but I would hope it is. You know, I think Jacobs should try to redeem himself, but we'll see what he does. Number 3 after Daniel Jacobs is let me see here. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get my memory going. Number 3, you could go with David Benavidez for now. you know, this is DAZN working with the PBC. I don't think they would do it, but I would really enjoy watching that fight. But I just don't think they're going to come together for that. Number 4, let's say Caleb Plant as of right now, the undefeated IBF champion. Plant's looking at Canelo. I mean, they're trying to make that fight happen. So I really don't think, and plus it's PBC working with Matchroom and DAZN, and again, or Golden Boy and DAZN, and I just don't see that panning out. But I would like to see that fight as well. I think that'd be fun. You know, number 5 in that area, Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders running about 5 and 6 right now in that area. Again, I have to reshape my top 10, but you know, Callum Smith looks like he's planning on moving to 175. I think he's big for Rosado, so I don't think that's possible. Billy Joe Saunders would be interesting once Saunders comes back, but Saunders is contemplating retirement. He's about 50-50 on that right now from what I'm reading. I don't think he's going to be back until probably early next year if he comes back at all. And you know, he might want to take on a guy like Rosado at some point, but I just don't see it happening next. I think Rosado wants to keep rolling and keep building his resume following that big win over Melikuziev, so he wants to jump back in there. 7 through 10 now. You got John Ryder is you know, the former world title challenger. I think that fight, if DAZN and Golden Boy could come together, which I don't see why they wouldn't, that'd be a good one to put together right there. But Ryder is also in line to fight David Morrell for the WBA regular championship. So does he want to conceivably take a step back in terms of name recognition? I mean, in terms of you know, the world title you know, aspirations right there. I don't know. You know, I don't know if he'd want to, because he kind of is in line for that shot at the WBA regular belt. But you never know. I mean, why not fight what's his name? You know, and take him on. Fight Gabe Rosado. It'd be a fun fight to watch. It'd be a fun fight to make. So that's kind of in the air. You know, again, I need to reshape my top 10, but Lionel Thompson's somewhere in there. And, you know, I think it's a bad matchup for Rosado. He's not a big name. Plus, I believe he's got ties with PBZ, so I don't see that one being worked out. And then rounding out the top 10 would be Anthony Durrell, the former 2-time champion. I don't see it. Again, that's PBC working with Golden Boy. So, you know, there's not a lot of big-time options for Gabe Rosado, but Gabe Rosado can get fights. He really can. And Gabe Rosado doesn't care. You know, he wants to go after the big fights and the big-name opponents. He doesn't care what weight. So I'm not going to be surprised if Rosado returns to 160 and fights Jaime Munguia next, because it's probably, on paper, in terms of name recognition, probably the biggest fight he can get next. But I would love a Daniel Jacobs rematch if Daniel Jacobs would love a rematch, because I don't see why he wouldn't. He should want to go in there against against Rosado, especially after the way Rosado looked against Melikuziev, and be like, you know what, I need to shut this fool up. I just had an off night, or I was overlooking him the first time, whatever, and I need to take it more serious. And again, that would get Jacobs rolling towards jumping back into that Canelo and big name hunt right there at 160 to 168. So I think it would work good for both parties, but we got to wait and see. But that's the what's next on former world title challenger Gabe Rosado, who's back in the top 10. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been here with the truth.